Hi, I'm Min from PonderEd. This time I'm gonna share some of the idea about the methodology. If you watched the previous lecture, which I'm talking about how to increase the efficiencies in the study in the school settings, that you probably know that what is the methodology look like. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna talk about how the study methodology applies to the everyday life. So many people kind of like think that the study methodology is only for the studying in the school, like a study material in the school. But actually the study material that I gave you, the methodology that I provided, is not just for the study in the school. It is for the entire life that you can rely on for your work, for your approaches to the other people, and even when you're playing games or something like that. Okay, so I'm going to talk about about how to apply that study methodology into the everyday life in deep variety of the field that with this video. Now, before I go on with this methodology, how they apply it to the real life, I'd like to introduce one idea about knowledge versus this study methodology that I'm talking about. So basically, the people are kind of like confused with knowledge and concepts and the study methodology. Everything is kind of mixed up. So I just wanted to clarify that before I talk about the study methodology. Now, one thing that I don't know if I talked about it is that let me go on and introduce what is the conceptualizing the knowledge first. Okay, so generally what happens in the learning in the school, that let's say you are learning about the rains, that water drops and there's a dark clouds is coming from. Now generally what the way that the students learn and the way that the teachers and instructors teach in the school is that saying, well, cloud is formed from evaporation of the water by the heat and moves with the wind, and later when it hits the cold temperature it condensates and then drops by the gravity or something like that. This is a scientific knowledge that we learn from pretty much everyday life in the school, and many instructors and teachers teach in that same way. They're delivering the knowledge. But think about it, when you learn knowledge like this, what is it good for your life? If you are studying like a physics or water cycle, if your job in the future or current job is related to what you learn from the school, then yes, you can use it. The knowledge is usable. But let's say you majored in the science, but later you moved into the business field, then probably the knowledge that you learned is all gone. Well, most of the knowledge right after the exam probably gone, but let's say you had some knowledge, but even you don't use it for the future and your work every day, then the knowledge is not usable or it'll be gone soon enough. So basically, knowledge learning in this way is not going to stay in the brain, and also it'll be erased. And then think about it, the education that you had, what is it good for? Entire life, that the like a half the in my case, like entire life is in the like a school, but let's say about 30% of the life is spent on the school, and the learning all the knowledge that provided. And what is it good for once you graduate, and then if you change the field? And in addition to that, think about to learn the knowledge what you do. What I heard is that from the like a big major universities that in this area, like a UBC and SFU, they have classes like over 50 students in one class, or sometimes more than 100 in one class. And why do you have to pay that much money tuition fee that is like, I believe it's more than $10,000 I don't know exactly but something like that, paying it, and then learning the same thing, hearing the same lectures together with like 100 people all together in the room. What would be the differences that you are taking a lecture online, or the videos or YouTube lectures, or in this case some of the institutes provide the free lectures actually open, right? Then what is the difference? Why do you have to pay like more than $10,000 to sitting in a class like where there are hundreds of people sitting in and listening together? You might have had chance to ask one or two questions, but interior term, sometimes less than that. Wouldn't it be better to just read yourself and taking some of the lectures online wherever it is provided? Basically what I see is that people are going to the school because they wanted to use their graduate names of the school after graduate. That's what I see. So real education is not really there. But anyway, that's one of the part. So the conceptualizing the knowledge is a little bit different. Conceptualization is the one that you have to do by yourself. So basically what it does is that, then let's say it says when cloud meets the cold temperature, then that condensates. Then you make up the question, why? Why cold temperature makes water condensate? Why do a cold temperature makes water get together and then get it heavier? And what is the gravity? Why it's pulling the water down to the ground? You ask questions and try to find answers, then you will build the concept by yourself, and then you can conceptualize the interior, the knowledge that you're learning. So this is the one that I suggested before in the how to make your school study effective enough, more effective, and then make your brain develop at the same time. Right? So this is how you need to really approach it. So pre-study, and then you go take the lecture, and then after the lecture you review your work by comparing the lecture material and from the questions that you have, and by comparing it. So basically you have 3 steps. One is pre-step, second is actually the taking the lecture, so that's the real cases. So basically you are really engaging it. And number 3, reviewing by comparing what you have, number 1 and 2, and then reviewing after comparing it and make it up the questions. This is how I suggest you should study to improve your efficacy in your education as well as develop the brain. So conceptualization is the one that has to be done by you. It's not something that someone can teach you, because it is you who has to bring up the question. It is you who has to try to find the answers. Now, when you cannot find the answers, then, well, ideally in the education field, to make your brain to develop, then what instructors teachers has to do is then try to make up questions, and how you're going to change the question to find answers or something like that. Then you can actually develop your brain in that way. So instructors don't provide the answers, knowledge, instead providing how to find answers by asking you to ask questions and change the questions and observe it. That's what I do with my students and with my classes. And that's what it has to be. But problem is, in interior world, the way to deal with this, the methodology is only me for now. Oh, well, there are some students who learned from me, and now they are able to really do in some of the approaching this way, and including my son, who's high functional autism, also can really do this now, gradually building the skills. But interior world, anywhere else you will find it is the same story, same methodology that actually make your brain develop. Anyway, this one is you can read about all my stuff about, and then you can take into my lectures, then you will see what I mean. Now, so you have the knowledge, if you have it, let's say you learned about this knowledge, you're still limited with the knowledge that you provided. What you need by asking questions, what you're training yourself is that predicting the future. That's what pre-study is about. So basically what you have to do is, let's say before you go to the class, you observe, ask questions by yourself. That's the prediction. What could happen right in here, what materials will be dealt in the classes. Reviewing is a little bit, by comparing it, now you are reviewing it and making another questions is another round that you're predicting, another future, which is that you're looking for the knowledge out there where it is not known to you. So this methodology that I provided is predicting future. So basically it has, it will include simulation. If you adopt this and doing it gradually, then you will have to simulate what could happen. For example, if it's the case like a rain, then okay, what could happen? The cold temperature, moisture meet together. Then why does it condensate? It's getting together. Then you have to simulate these phenomenon inside of your brain to predict what is the real factor that makes it, which I call it causation, which means that there's a cause and there's a result, effect, phenomenon that you see. So causation, the interior education is has to be focused on logically explaining the causation relation between cause and result. That's the interior education has to be focused on. That's the only way to make your brain to develop creative thinking and thinking outside the box, and then more the brain power that you could unlock inside of your brain. Okay, so now pre-study and a real setting of the real life situation and bring it into the review. Some calls this as reflections or something, but let's forget about all this educational the terminology that people brought up, because these are just they just make up another layer of the terminology. So they call it reflections or something like that, but let's just make it as simple as these three. Now, what I'm gonna, as I mentioned, that I was gonna show you that how this methodology is really affecting in your life. How can this methodology can change your life? This is what I'm gonna focus today. So, now the knowledge part, conceptualizing and then studying in the school part is done. So let me change the topic as something like a negotiation. So let's say you and I meeting together and then negotiating. Then you are the one that wanted to make the deal happen. Also, I'm the one that make the deal happen. But let me focus on your side, that because it is you who has to develop it. So before the day or week before, if it is important, then you probably spend more time. But let's say you are just this is practice in the school cases with kind of like a business kind of practice. So you have you are spending time on the pre-study. For example, I say, okay, I'm gonna discuss with Min about this, and then I gotta make a deal out of it. Okay, then what could happen? What should I do? What is the tone Min might look for? And then you observe about my history or my company or what I do, and then you observe and make the list. And based on that, you make up the questions. Okay, then what is he looking for from me? What do I have? You actually have to have the comparison is reviewing part, but if it goes into the real life, you are done with these cycles many times. So now it is easily you can just use the comparison as well. So you compare with yours what you have, and then try to match, and then with the questions. Okay, so the Min's case is like that. Then what is he gonna look for from my side? Is he look for some of the services that I'm looking for? Probably you have that information. Then how do I approach to him? And if I approach in this way, then what could what would be his responses or something like that. So this is more likely simulation part has to be there as well. But let's just forget about the simulation and make it simple. So you compared and questioned and then you predict what what would be my responses, what would be my kind of the approaches. Then you had this study, and next day you actually came and 101, 101, not plus 101, and then you facing me and then dealing with it. And let's say you didn't really predict some of the part, so you deal was not done. And you came in next round and reviewing it. Okay, Min approached it in this way, I approached it in this way. The deal was off because I think that my approach in this part was not meeting his need or something like that. So okay, then what I'm gonna do next? Let's say now you have another person to deal with it, negotiating in the next round. So you wait and then you started dealing with it, because I'm not the only one that doing this education business. So let's say there is some other people doing education business. So you went with with someone else who to break a deal. Now you had the information, you saw that how I approach it, and then you analyzed it. Now you have better one step advanced kind of data. So now what you do, you apply that again and reviewing it. Let's say this one is a half success, reviewing and missing part in there. And let's say third one, you were successful, but there was something that you didn't expect happen, but still deal was done. Then with it, you just filling up the gap in between you and the person that you are negotiating, and you cycling it. And think about if you can do this for like about 50 clients or hundreds of them. You probably built up a lot of data. You probably seen that many of them, the way that the other people are approaching it. Basically, you have data and you have analyzation, all this analysis that by yourself, by yourself, and then you could be one of the best because you're observing other people's responses and take that as a study material and improve it next round, improve it another next round. So basically experience comes into real the skills that you are building it. Now every time you are experiencing something, then it will be your knowledge, well I should say concept, it will be your concept building it, and then you can get growing bigger and bigger. And let me give you another example. Let's say you are playing soccer. You do analyze it because you observed how other people, how teams are playing soccer, and you observe it, and you see started analyzing yourself that which position you're gonna sitting in, and then which position you're gonna play in, and then what movement you're gonna take based on the other people's analysis, and then you predict the future what could happen for the next day that the games, soccer games, and then you predict it. If that doesn't work out, then come back here. If it works, then that's good, and you analyze another one and cycling it. This methodology can be applied anywhere. If you enjoy playing electronic games, video games, you still can use that same thing. Anything, could be the topics that for your study. Only I suggest the topics that you don't want to choose is that something that make yourself in trouble. For example, like against the law or regulations, it will take away your freedom if you do it or if you act like that. So other than those type of the activities, anything could be the topic of your study. Basically, you can use this for the relationship with other people, how you approach with your son, a daughter, husband, wife, and friends, and your workplace, co-workers, and everywhere. And when you're presenting something, project, and when you're developing something, when you're playing golf, anything could be applied in this way. Then you will develop your brain at the same time. You can predict the future, and even though there's something that unknown phenomenon or something that you facing, you started doing this, then you will easily find out how to handle those situations. For that, there's one factor. If you worry about the failing and you want to be successful, then this emotion will lock your brain so that your brain will box it in. So it's not going to work. So what you need to do is just simply looking at the factors that what happens, hard data, and use it to analyze it and cycling it. That's the first thing. So success, fail, shouldn't be afraid of it. And another thing is for you to think about is that don't be afraid of unknown future, because in this way you are gradually building the skills to predict the future and getting ready to the future. So you will get stronger and stronger as you build these skills. Okay, human capability, the quality of the human being human is right here in the brain, not in the hand. Hands, these arms, it could be cut off and gone, then you could lose it. Well, once your brain is gone, then you are dead. So basically, you cannot really survive. So think about this is what is the most important thing. This is what makes you human as a human. Okay, so the study methodology that I talk about is for the entire life, changing entire life, not just simply for the studying for the school, the topics. Okay, basically you can change your life with this methodology, and then you can go up to the pyramid that with this methodology, because you are building the skills. Of course, there's some of the difficulties is there, because not all the questions are the ones that actually that make your brain to develop. There's differences in the questions. There's a way to handle how to describing it, how to looking into how to comparing them. Those are the one of the difficulties you probably faced. In that case, my suggestion is go back to the concept building method, concept connecting method, because that's the basic training material. So that has to be somewhat you should be able to do this more kind of like with some of the freedom to do this. Okay, if you are looking into the only applying for the schoolwork, then go back to the previous one. You don't have to really go through the building concepts and connecting concepts. You can easily take up with this methodology, and you can improve your efficiencies in the study. But with that method, only doing it will be limited to the schoolwork. If you wanted to expand that to the entire life, you have to go back and concept building and connecting concepts, and then you have to build these skills, so that, and then combine with this method together. Then now you can actually improve your entire life. Quality of the life will be different, and then because you know how to approach with, you can develop it from the methodology to approach any project, any people, or anything. Okay, and think about it. Knowledge. School in this case focus on the knowledge, and I know they are trying to change it to certain developing the project skills or something like that, but it's not going to be easy, because there are a lot of the barriers still there. But at least they're trying it. But my suggestion is think about it. Are you going to learn knowledge, or are you going to learn methodology of how to study? If you choose to go with how to study, then you will build concepts. Knowledge is simple, and then sometimes you can just memorize, but more likely, more importantly, you will be able to build the conceptualizing the knowledge, and you will be able to change your entire life. So choice is yours, and I'm pretty much sure that if you're watching this, then your choice is learning how to do this. This is what I call learn how to learn how to learning methodology in the school. And but still, if you take a look at the course syllabus in the university that you're using, then you can read about it, then you can easily see they are focusing on the knowledge. Constantly says knowledge building, have knowledge, have some concepts. Rarely it comes up with the concepts, but concepts and knowledge, these two terminology is not really clearly defined, so they just mixed up and then using it. If that's the case, then you will think of that institute that somewhere that if you, let's say, if you are taking course with that course syllabus, then you can think of yourself that you are kind of like wasting money in there, because you are sitting in like one of 50, hundreds people, and you are spending a lot of money, but taking up the knowledge from the instructors or something like that, you know what you are going through. Basically, you are wasting money. Okay, so it's a study has to be focused on this to make your brain develop and make your concepts building over, and so that you can think outside of the box and think creatively. Okay, and eventually you can change your entire life in a way that you have more freedom to enjoy. Okay, yeah. So this is it for now. I'll come back with the different topics later.